I had it on my stuff before the factory did. They copied my pickup. Then, what was his name? Was the advertising manager at Harley Davidson was Dwayne Uncaford. Yeah. He says, "Oh, I like that." And he came out, took a picture of it. He says, "Can I copy that?" Well, I don't care. Next thing I know, they got it copyrighted, and I have to ask their permission to use it.
Evel Knievel inspired millions of us with his courage and perseverance. We're building a museum so you can relive those memories and be reinvigorated with that spirit of bravery.
My name is Evel Knievel. I'm a professional daredevil.
Along the way, we meet people involved in the life, the times, and the legacy of the King of Daredevils. Here with their stories is your host, Joe Friday.
Hey, howdy. You remember Lathan from that last show that we did when he shared those harrowing stories of archaeology and years of digging and traveling and researching actually all of Evel Knievel's artifacts and put together a museum along with our friend Mike Patterson. So Lathan joins us again today. Thanks, Lathan.
Howdy, Joe Friday.
I'd like to thank our last guest, who was Brandon Powers. That was the creator of Evil Pie, and he's our new neighbor where the museum will be. And he will be bringing a new pizza concept. So it was a hoot.
Pizza for adults.
Pure mayhem. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you haven't listened to it yet, it's a lot of fun. So look it up. Since we last met on the podcast, American Pickers came out with an episode that they actually found the big sign from the real Snake River event, which was, 50 years ago?
They found one of them.
They found it. And did you authenticate it?
Mike and I knew right away that it was legit, but the interesting thing about that particular sign is it's very similar to one of the others, but quite different on the border. The interesting fact is we found one photo out of, a million photos that there's one picture of that particular sign, and it's perfect. And we used it in Being Evil, I believe, also, but yeah, it's legit, and that raised the price probably as well. So there's a part 2 that we did, and I just turned in the last of the footage a couple of days ago. Yeah. And Wolfe said before he left, he told me that was probably one of his favorite experiences ever, was doing that show with us. And he's like, "You guys did all that in one take?" We did walkthroughs and walk-bys and descriptions of everything, but I don't think we had to shoot it twice once. Mike and I were just ping-ponging, our brains were just going crazy. It was awesome. And Mike Wolfe knew his stuff too. I was impressed with him. He's passionate about what he does, and that's very clear, but he also obviously knows a lot about Evil and did his homework.
Hey, I want to introduce you to the guy that came up with the #1 logo, the ubiquitous logo that we see on Harley Davidson's and Evel Knievel's things. We picked up Robbie's bike, right, in Chicago, or Hoffman Estates, and headed to bring it back across the country, and ran into a freak ice storm.
Ran into Ben Packey and Scott Packey in Kewanee, Illinois at Reiman's Harley Davidson.
Yeah, when we left town, I think the temperature dropped about 20 degrees in an hour, and and of course, Lathan being Lathan, somebody everywhere, and
Not by choice.
Yeah, right. And then you said, "Let's duck in Kewanee, Illinois."
Yeah, those guys are really, really great friends, and they carried on Roger's legacy for a long time. And great hosts too. But there's a lot of differing opinions on who painted the original #1 logo.
I'm going to get on that motorcycle, and I'm going to show you why I wear this big red, white, and blue #1 on my shoulder.
And it was brown signs initially that we were told from Danny Packey, but then he remembered his friend, Mr. Scott, who came in graciously. And you remember more about it than I do, but he kind of copped to being the guy, correct?
Yeah, that's right. First of all, they got us sheltered, and then he hooked us up with, a cheap motel.
The bike would have probably been frozen and disarray without. Your buddy George in Illinois gave us a really high quality bike cover that looks like Swiss cheese about 100 miles out. And we had to stop and buy duct tape at the auto parts store. Didn't protect anything.
No, I offered to replace it because it was completely shredded, and he didn't take me up on that one. So I sent him his shredded cover back, and then Denny showed us how to load a bike properly, which was great. And just happened to know this artist in Kewanee that came up with the iconic #1 logo. You know, the #1 that Evel Knievel wore on his shoulder and that Harley Davidson has on their T-shirts, and that you see some people with the tattoos, and you see it on the back of pickup trucks everywhere you go.
The first ones were on the 70 Ironhead gas tanks, supposedly.
Okay.
And painted in Kewanee. But anyway, yeah, so we bring up that whole topic, and he just pulls out his phone and calls Mr. Scott, and he goes, he'll be here in 10 minutes. And the guy was literally there in 10 minutes.
Hi.
Lathan, how are you?
We were lucky enough to have everything with us. And we were snowed in, and it was like a snow day at school, except for it was with, around other interesting people instead of Bob Barker and Vanna White. Anyways, we caught this interview with Bill Scott, which I hope you will enjoy right now.
I started racing in 1954 on a Harley 165. We were running scrambles, and actually, when I was a sophomore in high school, I went out for track at the high school, and I didn't have the legs for the dash, but I had lungs and endurance. I should have been on the cross country or mile team because I could last. And I knew better than to try football or basketball or baseball. I was barely 5 feet. And our illustrious coach, which they have a gym named for Helmut H. Brockman Gymnasium, he told me, he says, don't bother with sports. He says, I went in, jumped all over him, because the first big track meet that we were supposed to go to, I wasn't on the roster. And he had guys on there that were way slower than me. And I said, how come they're on a team and I'm not? I can outrun them practice all the time. Our practice was down around Baker Park from the Kewanee High School, which at that time was over by the Dairy Queen, and then you go run around Baker Park and back to the school. And I could get back there and be changed before some of the guys that he had on the team were back home. And he says, you're never going to be an athlete. Forget about athletics. Focus on academics. I went in the locker room, changed my clothes, threw my gym suit on his desk, went out, hopped on my bike, a Harley 165 with knobby tires, and at that time we had a cinder track. Nice, well-groomed cinder track out there. I start doing nice broad slides around that cinder track. He got out there, stop. I'd run him over. Or at least he thought I would, anyhow. I wanted him to think I would. I might have. Mm-hmm. But I ran maybe 10 laps around there, just sliding, throwing cinders everywhere. The principal was a friend of my father's, so I got off light. I figured I was going to get expelled over that, but I had to go every night after practice. I had to rake down that damn track and regroom it, do something nice for that jerky coach that I just absolutely despised. Then I went racing. He didn't like me. I didn't like the school. School didn't like me, so
yeah.
And I went racing, and my lightweight, I was small, and I had what he didn't see. What's it take to be a good athlete? You have to have good coordination. You have to have cat-like reflexes, a spatial recognition, be able timing, recognition. I had all that. That's what it takes to be an athlete. He didn't see that. And I started hauling home trophies right away. And Roger and I battled quite a lot on he always had better equipment than I did, just a bunch of kids. And then when I got out of high school, I was working at Chevy Garage, and we put together this bike. I mean, we didn't leave any detail that we could dream up untouched. Mm-hmm. The inside of the flywheels, everything looked like jewelry. Polished, smooth. The inside of the crankcases, smooth as glass. One of the local guys was in here looking over, actually, my shop. My dad's home was next door. And the local guy was watching while we're working on it. He says, man, if a fly had landed in there, he'd fall down and break his leg. We had everything smooth as glass. And we figured, the flywheels are turning 8,000 RPMs, and there's not much space in those crankcases. So if you get bubbles of oil in there, that's going to cause cling. So the smoother you make it, the less, if it does need to be lubricated, you don't want oil on it.
Yeah. So if it didn't need to be lubricated, we buffed it up, slick, shiny, and the whole inside was a lot of work with a little Dremel grinder and a Bright Boy. Well, it wasn't a Dremel; it was something earlier version, but right. And
what they called Bright Boy pads. It's like Scotch Brights. We had everything polished, smooth. We even packed the wheel bearings with Vaseline. What's Vaseline? Petroleum jelly. Somebody said, well, that's not going to last long. Give me 1 hour. It only has to last 1 hour. We had an old washing machine base from the old tub washing machines, agitator type washing machines. Pulled it out of the dump somewhere, and we had a piece of plywood on it, and we mounted the transmission there with an electric motor, and we run a slurry of ATF and Bon MI, and we lapped in those gears. You know how you notch gears together? You can feel them go tick, tick, tick as they merge. Mm-hmm. Mine didn't. After we got it all lapped in, so they're just meshed perfectly, we took it all apart, cleaned it, washed it, get every bit of grit out of it. Went down to Peoria Bearing, down in Peoria, and we bought turbine grade bearings. They cost us way more than just over-the-counter bearings, like you'd put in a normal transmission. But turbine and machine tool bearings are very high precision. So we put our transmission together with that super precision bearings. Everything was lapped in. I mean, we just played with every little idea we could come up with. And at Daytona, this bike, when I ran Daytona in 100 miles, I finished 4 miles ahead of second place. 2 minutes and 39 seconds ahead. In a game where a couple hundredths of a second can make first 4 places.
What year was that?
59. That was my number that year, too. Well, the first probably 10 laps or so, there was some other bikes that were competitive, but they were revving the heck out of them. And it was like a 40-mile-an-hour headwind coming down the beach. That was on the beach, of course. Mm-hmm. And so, since I was ultra lightweight, we just swagged, just scientific wild-ass guess. We gave it a swag, guessed at the best gear ratio. I was pulling 2 gear teeth higher than almost anybody else out there. I don't think anybody else was in the same gear ratio. But since this was a budget motor, I didn't have the super cams and other things that some of the other better heeled teams did. So my engine had way more torque, and I was ultra lightweight, and we were afraid to gear it too low because when you have the wind behind you going down the blacktop, you're going to over rev it. And the British bikes at first were turning like 12, 13,000 RPMs, and they all blew up when they got on the blacktop with the wind pushing them. They're over revving them and sucking valves up and breaking pistons, and my old KR turning 8,000 RPMs all day long. At the end of the race, we're 4 miles ahead. Kid from nowhere, four teenagers. Well, my brother he wasn't a teenager. My brother was a year and a half older than me. I just turned 20. My cousin was a year younger than me, so he was 19, and John was a year young, he was 18. And we put that bike together at home. The factory teams from Europe, Japan, had Franco Farn Ducati national champion, the European whatever champion. His name was Franco Farn, I remember, and he was going to blow everything away.
Yeah.
I don't think he finished. I got drafted before the Speedway opened, so I had to go defend us against Cuba. We were going to go invade Cuba. We were training. I was in California training for an invasion of Cuba. People don't know we were almost. I mean, if somebody would have sneezed wrong, we could have been in Cuba. They claimed that because of the U-2 flyovers, they knew where every missile was, all the Russian missiles. They knew exactly where they were. They had accurate maps on where they were, how to get there and everything. And there would be multiple U.S. units assigned to each missile. And our unit would be one of the groups assigned to a specific missile. When you get there, your obligation is to blow that thing up. I tell everybody that once Castro found out I was coming to get him, he sent the missiles back to Russia. We got talking after everything cooled off and they sent the missiles back to Russia. Those are nuclear missiles.
Good thing we didn't blow.
What happens when we blow this sucker up? If you probably wouldn't set off the nuclear chain, but you're going to spill radiation everywhere. What's going to happen to us?
Then did you come home to Illinois?
I got married. I came home and got married right away.
When did you get into painting or design work? Any kind of design work? Because you said you did the first Harley Davidson designs?
At least a third of the T-shirts being sold in the Harley shops were my designs.
Wow.
Ron Stratman, did you know Ron Stratman?
I have to interrupt here for just a second about Ron Stratman. That's who he's referring to. Ron Stratman was a motorcycle enthusiast for his entire life, and he was, by all accounts, an amazing person. In this context, what we're talking about is Ron's career as the licensee for almost all Harley Davidson gear. All of that was reviewed by Ron Stratman in order to get it produced. He would take Bill's designs, among many other designs, and put them on T-shirts and sell like crazy. Okay, back to Bill.
I was an idea guy. And I'd do an idea and I'd do a kind of a sketch layout. I was a draftsman at Caterpillar in between other careers. And so I could lay out and I made sketches and I started to tell you one time Stratman, when this tall black guy came in, wanted to sit on one of my lowriders, He sat there kind of rocking back and forth on it. Puts kickstand back down, walked out to his Honda. He says, I got to get my ass on some class. And he couldn't have been a block away, and Stratman pulled up. I said, Ron, got a new idea for you. And he put the Harley oak leaf, and it says, put your ass on some class. And that was the hottest seller that he had going to Sturgis that year.
So funny.
But the number one?
And the one that, there was a T-shirt that, another hot one, said, if I have to explain it, you wouldn't understand. That was my idea. A hand grenade said, Japanese motorcycle repair kit. Hand grenade. Another one had a motorcycle in, looked like water with just the rear wheel sticking up, and it had Honda, Yamaha, Kawasaki, Suzuki in looked like Japanese letters, you know, they like chunks, and then underneath it said, brought to you by the same nice people that gave us Pearl Harbor. That was in the 60s, so it wasn't that far removed from World War II, you know, so, and that was a good one. And then another one that had a, looked like a Harley shovel head engine made out of brick with a door on it with a crescent in it. It said, built like a brick Harley.
Oh, yeah. Like sorry, it takes me a minute sometimes.
That's the beauty of the design. When you have to, oh, yeah.
So tell us about this.
Lathan is asking about a sign. It's one of those wall-mounted signs made out of pressed metal, and it's got the stars on top, vertical stripes, and it says Harley Davidson down on the serif of the big number one.
When I kind of sketched this out for a sign painter, I had bought a new Chevy pickup. And Harley was number one for how many years, you know. And at that time, we were in tight competition with mostly British bikes, not that much with Japanese, but there was some Japanese bikes. And so I had the sign painter make up a red, white, and blue number one, which was basically like this. And then I had a third projection that had one-stop cycle center, and then I had bullet points down here, motorcycles, mini cycles, parts, insurance, financing, accessories, like that. And then on the projection back here, I had Joliet, Illinois. I had it in 3D on my pickup. I had it on my stuff before the factory did. They copied my pickup. Then, what was his name? Was the advertising manager at Harley Davidson was Uncaford, Dwayne Uncaford.
Yeah.
He says, oh, I like that. And he came out, took a picture of it. He says, can I copy that? Well, I don't care. Next thing I know, they got it copyrighted, and I have to ask their permission to use it.
So no royalties, huh? Do you still drive around with the number one on your truck?
Yeah, I haven't, well, on the back window of my truck.
Oh, yeah.
A decal that I got here.
That you made, that you created.
Yeah. Willie G claims that it was his design, but Ron Stratman would argue that all day long, because we had it in existence well before the Harley factory started using it. Then I had T-shirts made up with, it looked like a necktie that was a number one.
Oh, yeah.
And the knot was blue with the stars on it, and then it had a pocket drawn on it with a number one on the pocket and a couple of the old Bic pens drawn in the pocket. so you could go dressed up with your necktie and still be wearing a
Go on
T-shirt.
a motorcycle ride.
So that was the number one logo was your concept.
Yes,
On his truck.
on my pickup.
It's one of my favorite logos of all time. It says everything. It's so Americana. It's so Evel Knievel. It's so perfect.
Well, that was way a long time before Evel Knievel. That was when we were.
I associate Evel Knievel and Harley Davidson and America all rolled into one beautiful star-spangled package.
Yeah. Well, I had my main thrust when I had the Harley dealership in Joliet was buy American. It's made in America, and we don't want you getting a paycheck from an American company and spending it on a Japanese company. So that was I advertised that in my newspaper ads and everything, especially the government employees.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I used to write
Your money.
a newspaper column that was in the Joliet newspaper. It was Scotty Says. And I had a column every Friday night of my own quips. And a few times I had crossword puzzles of motorcycle stuff, and I talked about motorcycle accessories, and I pointed out during the hunting season that the Harley leather pants were perfect for going out hunting, rabbit hunting. You go tripping through the briars and brambles, and the leathers, you're not going to get all chewed up by. And I sold leather goods to non-Harley people after that.
You mentioned you made a delivery for Evel Knievel. Is that right?
Yeah, well, I had the Harley shop in Joliet, and the factory called me, and they asked me if I had one of the red, white, and blue Sportsters on hand. I said yes, and they wanted to know if I'd be willing to deliver it to Evel Knievel, and they would pay expenses and whatever, and give me another bike, and give me a pass on it, and all that. And I said, sure. And the arrangement was that Evel was going to come down to my shop, and the radio and everything in Joliet would be there but he had fell down practicing up the Stockyard Inn. He wasn't up to coming down. He didn't really hurt himself, but you get bruised up and all that kind of stuff.
Where's the Stockyard Inn?
We were supposed to make the delivery to him at the what they called the Stockyard Inn was there at the International Amphitheater, and that was right next to the Chicago Stockyards and all that stuff. We went up there and sat with him in his big camper and had a long conversation with him.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
That big old camper like semi that he had.
Yeah, we've got that. It's been completely restored. It's all painted up like a motorcycle. It doesn't have decals on it. They're all hand painted. Mm-hmm. You would like it. It's a cool museum. What happened with your dealership? Did you sell it?
I sold it, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had the Harley dealership in Joliet for 17 years, and then the economy went sour in 1984. Well, the early 80s, the inflation rate was 20. The prime rate for financing was 20%, and there was no construction going on. The motorcycle customers are hard hat guys. They're the construction workers. So probably at least half your clientele is construction workers, and there's no construction. And so it got pretty tough to sell motorcycles, and it looked like Harley was going to go under. It really, and then in, what was it, 83, when when Harley bought themselves back from AMF, and then they had a couple of bad years, and then it was Malcolm Forbes arranged financing for Harley Davidson to bail out. He's a billionaire. Well, Malcolm Forbes was a big Harley guy anyhow. He gave away Harleys to several of his friends. Liz Taylor was a friend that got a free Harley from him.
Yeah. Do you still ride motorcycles?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's just... I still have...
You take it out?
4 or 5 old bikes of my own.
How long did you race?
To 84.
From 59 to 84?
No, from 54 to 84. I was 71 when I took it to Daytona for the vintage races, and everybody else out there was half my age. And I got second place.
Nice.
I was dicing it out with a guy on a Triumph, and he really wanted it.
Yeah.
And I thought, if we keep going like this, one of us could get hurt. And I was old enough to know that pain hurts. I'd had a few crashes. I know what it feels. Recovery can be rough. And so I thought, I don't need this. I'm just down here to have fun. And I wanted to run on the speedway.
Thank you for jumping out of bed, throwing on the number 59 hat, and rushing over. And so now you know where that big number 1 comes from. Wasn't that an awesome story? I mean, the guy won Daytona way long ago, and then won when he was a senior. And in the interim, he designed that amazing logo that you've seen in 1 million times. So especially want to thank our guest, Bill Scott from Kewanee, Illinois. What a great and unexpected thing to find a friend in Kewanee, Illinois, right? Also want to let you know about our next guest. Mike Patterson will be on to talk a little bit more about the museum and what's happening there with the new displays as well as the building. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Lathan.
We'll see y'all in Las Vegas soon.
Well, until next time, buddy, stay fabulous. Adios.
Bye.
If you want to be in this business and you want to be the best in the world and you want to wear a red, white, and blue number 1 on your back, you have to be man enough to handle the consequences. I'm Evel Knievel, honey. I'm not supposed to be afraid.
All right. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. It's our mission to preserve and present the legacy of Evel Knievel. So if you have an idea for an episode or a guest, or have a suggestion to improve our show, just drop us a line at joe@thrill.show.
Like, I just think the Evel Knievel way.
We leave you with the encouraging words from the book of Deuteronomy. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you or forsake you. Until next time, happy landings.
You like to fly with the seat of your pants. This is where you play.